In 1983, the video game industry didn't crash because nobody wanted to play games anymore. It crashed because everybody did, and the wrong people got rich. By 1982, Atari wasn't just winning the video game wars, they were the war. The company owned roughly 80% of the home console market. Their stock was climbing. Wall Street treated them like the second coming. And then in the span of 18 months, the entire industry vaporized. We're talking about a market that went from $3 billion to barely $500 million. That's not a correction. That's a collapse. Exhibit 1, the greed. After Atari's runaway success with games like Pac-Man and Space Invaders, the company got cocky, really cocky. They started licensing everything, and I mean everything. Bad movies, forgotten TV shows, properties nobody asked for. They greenlit a game based on E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Not because it made sense. Because Steven Spielberg had cultural juice, and Atari thought that translated to cartridges. That E.T. game was a catastrophe. Players called it unplayable. The controls didn't work. The gameplay made no sense. It was a complete disconnect between hype and reality. Atari manufactured 5 million cartridges. They sold less than 2 million. The rest, warehoused, rotting inventory, and that's where the bodies started piling up. Exhibit 2, the market saturation. Between 1982 and 1983, the number of games released exploded. We're talking hundreds of new titles. Quality control didn't exist. Publishers were churning out garbage because the market was hot, and hot markets attract parasites. Mattel threw money at video games. So did Coleco. So did companies that had absolutely no business being in the space. Everyone wanted a piece. The problem was simple. Too many bad games, all competing for the same consumer dollar. Kids and families had limited budgets. They weren't buying 5 games a month. They were buying 1, maybe 2. And if that first game sucked, which statistically it probably did, they weren't coming back. Trust evaporated overnight. Exhibit 3, the hardware bloat. Atari released the 5200 in 1982. It was supposed to be better than the 2600. Faster, prettier, more powerful. Except it wasn't backward compatible. You couldn't play your old games, so if you owned a 2600 and millions did, upgrading meant throwing money away on a whole new library. Most people didn't upgrade. They just stopped buying. Meanwhile, personal computers were getting cheaper. The Commodore 64 launched in 1982 at $195. That was half the price of an Atari 2600. And it could do more. Word processing, spreadsheets, actual computing, plus games. Suddenly, a dedicated gaming console didn't look so smart. Consumers voted with their wallets. Exhibit 4, the retail graveyard. By late 1983, major retailers started pulling video game inventory off shelves. Toys R Us, Walmart, Kmart, they were sitting on dead stock. Games that wouldn't move, space that could be used for toys, action figures, anything else. One by one, they reduced their shelf space. The supply chain collapsed. And here's the thing nobody talks about, the rental market. By 1983, video game rental shops were popping up everywhere. Why buy a $30 game when you could rent it for $5? It made sense for consumers. It killed publishers. Games stopped selling because people could try before they bought, or just rent forever. Revenue dried up. Exhibit 5, the arcade competition. Arcades were still thriving in 1983. That's where the real innovation was happening. Games like Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Galaga, they were arcade games first. Home versions were always watered down. Kids knew it. They'd rather spend quarters at the arcade than play inferior versions at home. The arcade was winning. Home gaming was losing. By 1984, Atari was hemorrhaging money. The company that had owned the world was suddenly worth half what it had been. Layoffs started. Departments shut down. The 5200 was discontinued. The 2600 was basically abandoned. And the worst part? Atari's parent company, Warner Communications, didn't care about fixing it. They wanted out. In 1985, Warner sold off Atari's consumer division to Jack Tramiel, the founder of Commodore, for $275 million. Atari had been worth billions. Let that sink in. The company that invented home gaming went for pocket change. Here's what kills me about this story. It wasn't inevitable. The crash wasn't some act of God, it was self-inflicted. Atari had the market, they had the brand, they had the money. What they didn't have was discipline. They prioritized speed over quality, short-term gains over long-term trust, and the market punished them for it. The video game industry didn't die in 1983. It just got a hard reset. Nintendo showed up in 1985 with the NES, and they learned from Atari's mistakes. Strict quality control, limited releases, backward compatibility. They rebuilt trust one game at a time. Within 5 years, gaming was bigger than ever. So what's the lesson here? Dominance is fragile. One bad decision doesn't kill you. 10 bad decisions all at once absolutely do. Atari thought they were untouchable. They weren't, and neither is anyone else. The moment you stop caring about your customer is the moment someone else will. This wasn't a market crash. This was a reckoning, and it's happened before. It'll happen again. The pattern never changes. Greed, saturation, collapse. Different companies, same story. The difference between a dynasty and a footnote? Knowing when to pump the brakes. Subscribe, because the same patterns that buried Atari are playing out right now in tech, and you'll want to see them coming.